I don't really think so much more around the idea of success, because that can be often quite tricky. It can lead you to very binary. You're not successful, you're successful.
Okay.
I think if you take that word away from it and then you just focus on doing the best, and you look at when we were talking earlier today, you're talking about the Oprahs and the other people. They didn't go, I'm going to be Oprah and I'm going to be successful. What they did was they said, I'm going to follow this journey and it's going to be authentic and I'm going to push against every obstacle that comes up. And then they became Oprah.
Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today I have a special friend, Geoff, who lives in Sydney, and I got him over and I said I really need you on my channel because he is so smart. I'm not kidding. He reads so much books and he's been an entrepreneur for so long, and the wisdom he gives me is just crazy, out of this world. And so I wanted Geoff to come on and also to share a quite inspirational story of how he succeeded in his entrepreneurship game really early on, and then something happened to him. So Geoff, welcome on board, and just share with the audience a little bit about, your current businesses and then, your little background.
Sure, yeah. Well, one thing I'll say about the very smart thing.
Just like
so hold your horses on that one. So yeah, look, I'm currently my title at the moment is Managing Director of the Technology 360 Group. So it's a group of businesses. Our process inside that business is effectively look where the opportunities are. We set up or we acquire businesses, we help build them up, and then there's a case of when our part of the journey is when it hits about a maturity or a growth level, we then sell the businesses off. So it's kind of treating the a business like a product or a service. And the reason why we cut them down into product and service size is that we get very focused on what the actual market is, what the clients want, and I guess what the industry wants overall. In relation to the part of where things started off for myself, so I grew up in a working class household, and so unbeknownst to me, the nature and nervous systems and nurturing systems all turned out to put me in a place where I was very keen on high octane things. So I was very interested in acting. I was very interested in
acting as well,
sport, and all those things. Yeah, well, there was the three pathways that I was planning to follow. But the one thing that happened for me is I got opportunities in that high school stage, college stage of doing business, and I did it and I enjoyed it, and things worked out quite well. And the first two businesses that I set up were sort of in 18, 19, 20, 21 college years, and I ultimately failed with those businesses because I was having a lot of fun and I didn't have the discipline. So the third business that ultimately took off and really went well for me, 22, 23, was I had this one thought: do not waste another day. And so that was a thought that always worked through my head throughout my career, even to this day, where it's like, don't waste one day. And it's not the idea for people to get all worried and concerned about it, but there's nothing worse than, you're lying in your bed at night time and you go, you know what, I didn't really take this day serious. And we don't know when the last day will come upon us. And so there's a focus, and I like to think of it as if you cut your life down to like days, and you think about a day is a life. You're born and then you die at the end of the night. It's a very symbolic and spiritual thing. So we're not exactly talking science here, but it's a way of getting ourselves concentrating on the great gift that we've been given, which is the presence that we have. So we're at the start and the finish, and then you're then resetting the next day. But a whole bunch of wasted days, which is what I had when I was young, leads to failure. Because you know full well that all it takes is a few days of going, I don't really care, I'm not motivated, I'm not inspired, and you're waiting for some magical lightning bolt. That then takes on a new journey, and willpower is this muscle, right? So the more we let it go, and we'll go, I'm not going to get into the pool and swim laps, I'm not going to follow those leads up, I'm not going to go and chase these opportunities, it just go down. So then you're fighting inertia, and then up and down and so forth. So
you learned really early on that you weren't taking business too seriously and basically failed. But then what happened, because I know by the time you hit 30, you achieved your business success and you didn't know what to do with your time after that. So tell us.
Yeah, so I think I obviously put in very long hours, and the detriment to that was the focus on family and so forth. But I put long hours. We end up running 3 businesses, and the things that I thought I would achieve in my 60s and 70s, I achieved by late 30s, early 30s, and the idea behind it was, well, just keep going. And then it hit to a point when there was another 2 businesses rolling through, and it was like, what's this all about? I had a young child at the time and so forth. So I pulled back from it. And then by pulling back from that and focusing on the family side of everything else, incredibly what happened to me was I didn't know what to do next in life. And so it was, once you sort of set yourself and define a goal for yourself and identify in those parameters, when you achieve that, you have this death, right? Because you're like, I'm living for this, that's now done, then what? So there's a real importance of not attaching yourself to a project, attaching yourself to an A through to Z, 1 through to 100. When you're 100%, the question then comes is then what? What the mistake was there is that I identified my life as by going from here to there, and that's what it looked like. And when I achieved that, my life was over. So then, all hell broke loose after that, and it was a very difficult period, but it was effectively like an early midlife crisis in many ways, because what it did was it really killed me. And so I had to come back from that, and then I had to figure out, well, who am I? What am I about? What's meaning? What's purpose? And that was a really difficult experience over 5 years, which led me into counseling, which led me into martial arts, which led me into reading a lot more, philosophy, studying.
So what you did wrong, would you say, is focusing on business way too much and kind of forgotten a lot other aspects of your life, that by the time you hit your financial success or your business success, you then just lost yourself and had to go and find your wholesome self again?
Yeah, so I think, in hindsight, I was probably always going to be set up or be put in that position by my upbringing, by my thinking, all the rest of it. So sometimes it's important to see these things as just part of the journey and stages. But certainly what I would encourage many people to do is to understand that they are not their job. This is very much a male, masculine, ego-driven thing, right? Where it's about being the fastest, the smartest, the richest, the best-looking woman, the boats, all the rest of it. Now, there gets a point in time, and age is beautiful. It breaks that ego. That's the midlife crisis, where all these things that we were identified with fades away, and you're no longer the smartest.
Well, we get it as well, and then it didn't make us feel as fulfilling as we thought.
That's right. And so you've got to then go back right into the center and have a look at yourself and think, no, what's this all really about? And it's quite interesting. We all know people who are still in Peter Pan syndrome, where they're still living that lifestyle and seeing there, but there's a lack of self-actualization, spiritual, emotional growth, and everything else. And life is quite short. We're basically at half time. And at halftime, we're going, well, that's the first half. What's the second half going to look like?
So then from what I'm hearing is money, success, whatever else is a bonus now. Who you are, what you've just found about yourself is what makes who you are. So what is it that you've discovered about yourself? That time when you had to find yourself again. What was that, oh my God, clarity day? Yeah,
so I mean, the question is that you have to have a reason to live. At that period of time, I could think of all the reasons not to live. So it was a very difficult experience. And I've written about it in those books because I thought it was important to encapsulate what I was going through, because it was very difficult, very fast moving, very challenging, and I wanted to try and get things down in more of a journaling, a diary point of view. We decide who we are ultimately, and that's where you come to a point where there's a consciousness level where you say to them, I get to pick and choose. Not in the sense of there's some utopian way of building ourselves to be whatever we want to be. It's more a case of what is meaningful, what is purposeful. And if you have a look at the Maslow triangle, hierarchy, you think about at the top, there's that self-actualization. And Greeks have 9 different words for love, types of love. And the thing that was really resonated for me is living for others. And that's, I think, a lot of people have come across that in their journey, is what can we do for our family, for our partners, for our community, and and how can we give back? How can we leave the world a better place than we started? So that's when, for me, it was about being the counselor. And I broke it down to 5 key things: partner, entrepreneur, father, family, art, and helping. And so for me, every time I work on my diary or journaling or whatever the case may be, that's what I list, and I ask, am I being a good partner? You know, how am I as an entrepreneur? What am I like in family? What am I doing in terms of artwork? How am I helping? And so it's constantly building up those 4 columns for me personally. I don't think you can put yourself into like one word or one thing. And one thing I don't like is the labeling. I'm labeling as an ethnicity or a political view or a religion or a type of job to do. I don't think we can do that. It's up to us to determine how we express ourselves, who we are.
Okay, so would you say that every day you kind of ask yourself if you're feeling the right way, or if you're being that right role model or that person? Is that how you measure yourself as having success in life?
Yeah, that's right. And I don't really think so much more around the idea of success, because that can be often quite tricky. It can lead you to very binary. You're not successful, you're successful. Okay. I think if you take that word away from it and then you just focus on doing the best, and you look at when we were talking earlier today, and you're talking about the Oprahs and the other people, they didn't go, I'm going to be Oprah and I'm going to be successful. What they did was they said, I'm going to follow this journey and it's going to be authentic and I'm going to push against every obstacle that comes up. And then they became Oprah. You know, if you do a lot of reading in biographies or documentaries, you find it very interesting that how someone became someone. Recently, I've been quite obsessed with Anthony Bourdain. And
it's such a sad story how it all ended.
And there's, when you look at reading his Kitchen Confidential and then the documentary Roadrunner and a few other things about his life, he didn't set out to be that person. A lot of times, even during the peak experiences, he was in that state of what the hell is actually going on. And that's, I think, sometimes you get onto that train ride
of
or
success,
on there and you're just going to be going, what's actually going on? And there's a lot of people that have been destroyed by this so-called success. And I think you then have as like your value set and how you measure yourself and your goals, you have to then choose what success looks like for you. And very rarely is it materialistic type things, because we know for a fact you've got 24-hour days, you only drink so much, you can only spend so much, you can only go to so many places. And that whole consistent, like my counseling experience has taught, it's the being and the doing. There's only so much doing you can go and do. And a lot of people are doing purely to escape being. And so a lot of what we have to do is just to sit with our thoughts and find out what's sitting behind it, because we work on the inside out, not the outside in. And so you see a lot of people escaping that pain by pursuing these things relentlessly. And that's ultimately what my experience was, is I was very uncomfortable with so many things in my life. So I went on working hard, playing hard, and then ending up in that state. Instead of actually going, what's actually going on? And checking in there. Which is the driver. And the last thing we want to do is be driven by our vices or our, ultimate out of control passions. Because that then takes us all over the place. And there's a lot of damage that can be done.
I think some people probably might not believe us and go, oh, that's because you've already got the money or the things and that's why you're saying that. But hey, I need the money and I love money. I'm looking forward to buying my next car. And they're not listening. And like, what could you say to kind of, because I know sometimes it's easier for us to say it now that we've had it kind of thing or experienced it and go, yeah, trust me, it wasn't as good as it, that you imagine it to be. But yeah, anything you want to say to kind of instill it even more for them to really believe that what we're saying is helpful.
And the thing is, we've had the platform, my parents, my dad came here, my mum, there's the nurture, there's the nature. We've had the platform to be able to be very lucky to pursue what we want to pursue. When my parents were 12, 13, 14, they were told what they were going to do and that's what they got to do. And then I've spent a lot of time in third world countries. My children are both half Nepalese. They don't have this idea of, well, I'm going to pursue what I'm going to do. They're living hand to mouth. And you read this all over the place. So to answer your question is that we get a lot of opportunities in terms of, if you think about it, if you're born in Australia and you go through and you get jobs and you stand a level, you're very lucky. There's a lot of gratitude towards that. The only people who won't get that point and are still glued on that are people who are not opening their ears to the message, right? And they're stuck in that position. When we look at all folks that have gone through that period and read of these people that are there, the books are there, the opportunities are there to most people, you can understand that the message remains the same. It doesn't matter whether you're reading at 12 or reading at 80 or listening to us or listening to anyone else. Yes, I completely understand people who would be cynical about that and taking the view, yeah, sure, you've done it all and all the rest of it. But the reality is, for me not to say that would be cynical and unauthentic and all the rest of it. And some people, stubborn people like myself, wouldn't listen. And so as a result, I had to find it out for myself. And those people that are in that particular position will probably have to have a similar journey. But the answer is just come back to reassess where people are at life and what's important to them, what brings them true joy. Not the adrenaline rush, not getting high, so to speak. Not getting drunk or whatever it is, the things that might take them away. When they sit still and they just be and not do, what brings them true joy? It is very likely, it's very unlikely in many cases to be money. It's very likely to be things that are non-materialistic and money. Yeah.
So ultimately what I realize is that no matter what money you have, there's still happy and unhappy people, right? You know, when you just feel that lack of fulfillment or happiness. And it came down for me to the art of living each day, you know, and that's why I'm so strong around the morning routine, having that time to myself. So what do you do to keep yourself feeling happy each day?
Yeah, so I heard a saying from Jocko Willink, who's an ex-Marine, discipline equals freedom, and that's one of the key ones. I write down all these things, you know, gratitude, responsibility, truth, balance. One of the things that's very important is not taking things personal. I used to take a lot of things personal. That would upset the apple cart. I'd then spend hours at end, you know, criticizing myself and worrying about how other people saw me and how I appeared to others and what I did wrong or right. So I think that's important. But to answer, it's a case of starting every day with a focus on the things that you know have brought you peace and harmony and joy, and that means you have to have that discipline. And the one thing that we can talk about, all these philosophical things and strategies and ways of living, if you're not healthy, forget it.
Health is wealth at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's right. And so whenever I have been unhealthy, for example, COVID this year rather, the idea of all these beautiful philosophical, all the rest of and all the rest of it means shit. Why? Because you're stuck dying and you're in bed. So before we can get to any like full level of consciousness and the frontal lobe really powerfully developed and working, we need to be able to be healthy. Like that's a base foundation. If your diet's not correct, you've got a lack of energy, you're ill. So it's very difficult to think about progress when you're stunted. So the number one thing for me is going to be always health, go back to health. And I do it myself. I run myself into the ground from time to time, a little bit that way at the moment. And you go, okay, well, go back to it. One of the key things for tech is this wearable tech. And it's giving me this baseline, which is just a reminder. Is this a
sleeping tracker? Yep.
Baseline of sleep, quality of sleep, exercise, all the basic levels, which we all kind of know about, but we forget. And you know, this modern day with information pounding us all the time, and food and sex and drinking and holidays and everything else is constantly stimulating that to chase these other things. And we run ourselves into the ground. When we're into the ground, you got to rest.
Oh, that is so good. Well, I told you, Geoff is so smart. There's so much things that I want to share with you because we were talking just before this video as well. And I'm like, oh my God, it's just like golden nuggets right there. But love to hear in the comments below what was one of the takeaway that you got from this video. For me, I feel as if, the reminder again, health, because I think one of my battle is alcohol. As much as I appreciate life and I'm grateful, but yet there's one thing that I'm not grateful for is by drinking, and killing and hurting myself, being hungover. So that's a reminder for me to work on it. So thank you so much, Geoff, for coming along on my channel, and I'll see you again soon.
Most welcome.